Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Sports. And today we're going to be talking about the ridiculous red card that was Franco Mostert yesterday. Not only a red card, but a permanent red card. I'm going to be looking at the laws, we've been looking at the videos, and I'm going to be trying to understand how in the world we ended up with the red card situation that we did. And Rusty Russ was all spoken about, and he just says he's at a loss. He just doesn't understand how to coach differently, how to prevent this, and how to basically understand the laws that have been saying all about, making sure that there's a 20-minute red card and a bunker to use the system and to try and make it a quicker and fairer process. And then 2 weeks in a row, we get 2 straight red cards. Whilst all around the different leagues, we are seeing ridiculous incidents that meet the exact same criteria that are not being red cards. I look at Josh Adams yesterday. In fact, I looked at a lot of the cards over the weekend, and it's mental. The whole idea of if an action is always illegal, there's no mitigation, is not being applied to different teams and different incidents, and it's getting a little bit ridiculous. So we're going to dive into the Franco Mostert red card and then sort of talk a little bit about exactly what the law says and where I can't actually and where they got it wrong. I think is probably the best way of talking about it. So let's talk about the law. So first of all, dangerous play law 9.1 or 9.11. 9.11. Players must not do anything that is reckless or dangerous to others, including leading with the elbow or forearm or jumping into or over a tackler. Sanction is a penalty. There's obviously a bit more into if you go sort of further into the laws, it's more about, having to make sure you wrap, for example. That's why the whole thing of leading with your forearm or, going shoulder with your arms tucked in and the likes of that. And obviously the big thing is head-on-head contact at the moment. And you cannot make head-on-head contact or shoulder-head contact. And if it's a high impact, that's where we get to the red card threshold. But I want to have a look at the incident, shall we? And I just think that the more we start looking at this incident, the more it makes it look more and more ridiculous. And I mean, first of all, let's start with what we're looking for. So we're looking for head-on-head contact, shoulder-head contact. We're looking for no wrap. We're looking for intentional or dangerous, because on the World Rugby website, it says yellow and red cards. It says when a player has been cautioned and suspended for 10 minutes, the referee will show that a yellow card. If the player later commits another yellow card offense, player must be sent off, blah, blah, blah. But they said the global law trial is 9.30. When a player is being sent off, the referee will show the player a red card and the player will take no further part of the match. A player sent off may not be replaced. However, they said that for elite rugby only, for intentional and highly dangerous actions, the player cannot be replaced. For all other actions, the player must be may be replaced after 20 minutes. So this has to be highly dangerous or intentional. Okay? Now, let's have a look at this tackle, shall we?
2 times.
Because I think the more you look at it, first of all, look how low he is. I mean, he's lower than Ethan Hooker, by the way. This is somebody who's over 2 meters tall. He's still lower. That right arm never comes around as much as we'd like, but nobody tackles like this. This is very important. This whole thing of you got to try wrap. Look at his left arm. His left arm is there. His right arm's over here. It is ready to try and come around. He is going to attempt the wrap. He doesn't quite get it right. Doesn't really come around. So there is no wrap. So that part's fine. Look where his shoulder is. If you want to draw a line to where his shoulder is, it is below the headline. It really is below the headline. The other angle is going to show it even better. I still think to a certain degree that the right arm is in play, to be perfectly honest. And I still think over there isn't actually shoulder-to-head contact. So that's the one angle. This is the other angle. Again, look how low he is. Look how low he is. Paulo got busy, by the way, is also a bit lower. Much shorter player. Look how low Franco Mostert is. And again, I still don't see this shoulder-to-head contact. And look at some of the screenshots, which I think makes it quite clear, to be perfectly honest. Paulo Garbizi's head is above his shoulder. Literally, the shoulder head over there is over here. It is literally on the chest. Otherwise, Paulo Garbizi's head would literally not be on the back of his shoulder as he's getting tackled. So how do you look at that and decide that it is direct shoulder-to-head contact? It's definitely not head-to-head contact. Franco Mostert's head's well below Paulo Garbizi.
A yellow and bunker red, which is the difference between a full.
And this is what I keep looking. I've watched it so many times. When you look at the screenshots, and there's just no shoulder-to-head contact. I'm sorry, there isn't.
To be fair,
the shoulder it maybe might ride up to, but there's not direct shoulder to head contact. And they've spoken about it. If it hits the chest, for example, rides up, it could still be dangerous. Yellow card. Maybe go to the bunk and have a check. This is not a straight red. This is not a permanent red card. I don't know how else you could put it.
Stood his ground.
But look. There's literally a frigging gap between where that shoulder is and his head. There is a gap. How is that? How are you deciding that is direct shoulder to head contact when you can physically see the gap between his shoulder and his head? There's a clear gap. There's still a clear gap. There, his head's up around his shoulder.
There's a different rep, and
I just don't understand what they saw. What did they see about that?
This one, I don't think.
A clear rep in action.
This is my favorite angle. Look how low he is. Look how low he is. Look where the contact is. You can literally see that it's below. Otherwise, he can't actually have his face. His face couldn't be hitting the back of Franco Mostert's back if it was in contact. You're hitting it like that. This is not hard, people. Well, evidently it is hard.
It might even just be a
So,
penalty.
and again, we scrutinize. This for me is a very simple, if you want to go and push maybe yellow card, and you then go and let the bunker decide. I mean, you look at some of the screenshots, for example. There, you can see how low he is. First of all, also where his head is. So he's there like this. His head is down, so there's no risk. He's not upright in the tackle. He's gone. He's not gone for the knees, but he's low in the tackle. He's got himself into a good position. And for me, that shoulder is heading towards the chest shoulder region. You look at the contact. Look where his head is. His head is above him, which means it can't have been hit to contact. And again, you look at this. There's a gap. There's literally, you can draw a line. You could probably put a tennis ball through that gap. So it's just not a red card. It's just not a straight red card. There's no other way of talking about this. There's no other thing you can try and find. There's no other aggravating factors. And for me, if this does not get rescinded, it will be the biggest joke of the year. The fact that and they talk about the fact that if a infringement if something is always illegal, there is no mitigation. You know, there cannot be any mitigation if the rule is if the action is always illegal. And yet, you look at Ty Burn, for example, who's like this, moving forward, and they find a reason to find mitigation there and to rescind that red card. So if you can find mitigation for somebody who's doing this into a tackle, regardless of whether the timing's wrong, that's not the point. We keep talking about, and everybody keeps referring to the fact that if the action is always illegal, there's no mitigation. This is always illegal. Anywhere in the park, this is illegal. That red card gets rescinded. This over here, where he's low, where the shoulder is impacting with his chest, and his right arm doesn't maybe quite come around, but he's not done this. He's not led like this. He's not tucked in the arm. He's not put the arm behind his head and gone to a shoulder charge. Josh Adams literally jumps into a player, arm to the side over here at a ruck, where the player can't move, makes direct head contact, 20-minute red card. I rest my case. If they don't rescind this, it would be absolutely ridiculous. Franco Mostert should be available for next week against Ireland. That is a fact. Now we wait to see what World Rugby will do. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. I think it's ridiculous, and I'm very keen to see how this week goes.